Washington knocked off the Texas Longhorns. Who's the MVP? Not most valuable player, the most valuable prospect. And why is it Michael Penix Jr., quarterback for Washington? We'll talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every single day. Shout out for being our every single dayers. Guys, I'm Damian Parson. You can always find me on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on Twitter or X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. I got to kick this introduction over to my brother, my partner in crime, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keith, talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, man. Here to bring you championship-level content each and every single day with the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man, where we talk college football, we talk everything NFL football, but like we see over here, it all starts with the NFL Draft, man. So I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and wait to comment, man. Wait till we start talking to comment. But then go ahead and subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. But DP, let's get this thing going, right? We said it. We're covering Texas versus Washington. MVP, most valuable prospect. I like that twist, DP. I love that twist, as a matter of fact. Then we're going to go out classic segments, man. Stock up players, stock down players, right? You really know who a player is when they get to go against light competition, man. And that Texas versus Washington game had a lot of competition. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't we hit them with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Most valuable prospects, Keith, MVP. Washington got a big dub. They're going to the national championship game. And Keith, for you, who was the most valuable prospect last night?
DP is easy, right? This is Michael Penix, right? And we've seen the very best version of Michael Penix, right? Like we were wondering, what version are we going to get? Because I think you talked about a couple podcasts ago, but from the first Oregon game throughout the season, it's kind of been, the first Oregon game was great, right? Then after that, it was cool, good, right? But it wasn't there wasn't another great performance in there, right? Even when they played Oregon the second time. And DP, this performance was great. This was all like this potentially. I don't want to be too kind of the Monday morning reaction type situation. It is an all-time great performance, but man, it was a talented performance, DP. That's what you really understood his talent, and dare you say if you watch the film, DP, does he have probably the best completions, right? When you just watching the film and you have to pull out a highlight reel, he has some of the best completions in the entire quarterback class. So I'm going to go with Michael Penix as the most valuable prospect, DP.
No, Keith, that's a very true statement. When you turn on the tape and you watch Michael Penix at quarterback for the University of Washington and you watch him just command this team and the throws that he makes, you know what I'm saying? It's just like last night, he had dime after dime. He's got the NFL size, right? 6'3", 215. He's a lefty. He's got a rocket arm. And the things that he was able to do, Keith, and the numbers, 29 of 38, 430 passing yards, 2 total passing touchdowns. And it was just like honey hole shots. The throw to Rome Odunze late in the game, down the left side.
Oh, man.
I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, this man is in his Duffy. You hear me? Like he's in the bag right now because it was good coverage, Keith. You know that slogan, that old slogan, like a great throw beats good coverage. That's what that was on that throw, on that play, Keith.
It was great coverage, DP. It was great coverage. And so much the fact that I believe that the defender, and I think it was Ryan Watts, I think he got his hand on the ball, but the velocity that the ball came with and where the ball came from, he didn't even know the ball was there. Like he put his hand on the receiver's hand. I think that was Rome, right? And then he started to turn around, but the wide receiver had already caught the football. He was like, this is amazing. And you couldn't walk up to Rome Odunze 30 yards down the field and hand the football to him in a better position.
No, 100%. So Michael Penix, well, he and Keith, we talked about, and some of the people going back to that episode we did a couple weeks ago after the regular season, picking, this or that, Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix Jr. for QB3. Couple people are going back to the episode like, man, I don't know. And I'm like, hey, guys, I don't know either. And you know what I'm saying? Because if we're getting that version of Michael Penix Jr., I think the consistency is probably the big thing of like game to game. Like when we're going to get into, we're going to preview the Michigan game later on in the week and how Michigan could knock them off and what they need to do to rattle this man. But Michael Penix Jr., the word I can say, Keith, that was an elite performance by a quarterback. That was elite quarterbacking. You know what I mean? The things he was able to do, Keith.
DP, I would ask, okay, the Jaden Daniels QB3 conversation, why not Drake May? Why isn't he better than Drake May? I just want to ask the question, right? I'm not saying that he is. I want to finish the film process, right? I want to dive all over the film.
Listen, we're gonna that's good. That has to be a discussion now, right? Like that has to be a discussion. Where does Michael Penix solidify himself? Everybody started quoting CJ Stroud because you remember a year ago, CJ Stroud had that performance against Georgia. They didn't win the game because the kicker missed the final kick, but CJ Stroud was elite in that game, and they're like, okay, this is what the NFL could be getting. And that's what the Houston Texans have gotten, and they got a shot to absolutely go to the playoffs if they win this coming Sunday versus the Indianapolis Colts. But yeah, Michael Penix Jr. was the most valuable prospect. But Keith, I want to flip this thing to most valuable defensive prospect, if I could do that, Keith. And it's on the same team, of course, and that's Bralen Trice, the edge rusher. Let's say like 6'4", 6'5". I think it's like 265. 6'4", 265. Bralen Trice finished that game, Keith, 8 pressures, a QB hit, a forced fumble, 4 run stops, and 2 sacks. Leading up to the game, when we did the episode last week, previewing this Sugar Bowl, previewing this matchup, if you remember, my X factor, Keith, for this game was the Texas offensive line. And what were their only instructions? Block Bralen Trice and ZTF, Zion Fetui Tupoloa, or Tupoloa Fetui. And I actually nailed it that time. I feel good about that one. But that was, you know what I'm saying? ESPN during College Game, they always had that segment, you had one job. The Texas offensive line had one job, Keith. Block this man. Block Bralen Trice. Block him. Keep him out of Quinn Ewers' face. And they didn't do that. This young man, to me, and Keith, you remember we talked about him a few times on the show. Like, he was having a really good season this year, but for whatever reason, I mean, I guess it's because Pac-12 and people don't watch Pac-12 football like that. Like, he was flying under the radar when we talk about the edge rushers for the 2024 NFL draft class. Well, last night he put himself on the map and said, "Listen, guys, you might want to go back game to game and watch my tape because I've been balling all season. This isn't a big moment, big light opportunity. I've been doing this all year round." So this young man, I think, this is a dude that I think he's versatile, quick first step. We saw the different counters and pass rush moves that's in his bag last night, no matter what. And he flipped sides, rushing from the left and the right, going up against the left and right tackle. He could put his hand in the dirt. He could stand up in the 2-point stance and rush like a stand-up edge rusher, outside linebacker. Bralen Trice made him some money, Keith. In my honest opinion, he made him some money to where if somebody felt like, okay, we could wait to the 3rd round. I don't know about that anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're going to wait till late day 2 and get Bralen Trice, especially the way the teams need pass rushers. And he's very reminiscent of a Bradley Chubb, who plays for the Miami Dolphins after they traded from the Denver Broncos. I think he just tore his ACL. So thoughts and prayers to him. But Bralen Trice, man, moneymaker, most valuable defensive prospect. The most valuable prospect is Michael Penix Jr., but I had to show love to Bralen Trice.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm happy to see him emerge, right, and ball out and do his thing because, like you said, it was between him and Zion, right, and I think he's emerged as saying like I'm that guy, you know what I'm saying, and so
Mm-hmm.
definitely the most valuable prospect when it comes to defense side of football. But DP, let's go to our classic segment, man. Coming up next, we talking stock up, stock down, right? We talked about the most valuable players, but there were a lot of players making plays in this game, especially draft prospects, right? So we want to talk about stock up, stock down. So that's coming up next. Stay tuned.
Just a few weeks ago, guys, we were wrapping presents for Christmas. And now the NFL regular season is getting ready to wrap up as well. But there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Guys, right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Guys, the app is super easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find new bets in the new Explore tabs. Okay, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and so much more. So visit fanduel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a layup. Visit fanduel.com/locked-on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. The stock market is open again, guys, and we it's Sugar Bowl edition. And Keith, I think the stock up for me is one of your guys, and that's Ja'Tavion Sanders, tight end for the University of Texas, for them Longhorns, Keith. And this young man had himself a good game. And he was the guy that, Quinn Ewers was leaning on. Because it was a good portion through that game. Ja'Tavion Sanders, 6'4", 245. If he decides to declare, because he does have another year of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken, he was targeted 8 times. He caught 6 of those 8 targets, and he led them with 75 yards receiving. And Keith, when you think about what we saw, we was expecting Xavier Worthy to ball out, Adonai Mitchell to ball out. We were expecting, the receivers to take center stage. And it was Ja'Tavion Sanders that Quinn Ewers was like, man, the corners are doing their jobs outside. And I don't feel comfortable targeting my guys at times, especially early in the first half, especially. But he was able to get the ball and funnel. What I really took, really solace with, Keith, is just seeing Ja'Tavion Sanders be the lead guy in a passing offense in the game, right? That you can funnel the passing game through him. He's athletic. He has good size. He can run after the catch. He's got strong hands. He's got an NFL ready game and skill set. And I think that was on display last night.
Yeah, that's why if you heard us talk, right, and we're bringing his name up again, that's why I kind of comp him to like Eric Ebron, right? I think to me, he's an easy target, DP. Like he's just easy to get the football to. He's so smooth. He's athletic, big body guy, right? And then he lines up in so many different positions that it's like we can do so many different things. Like I talked about that Oklahoma State game, DP, they literally put him in motion, and you're talking about a tight end, right? Put him in motion and gave him like the jet sweep handoff, right? And then he ran up the field for 30, 40 yards. So it's so many different things you can do. And it was good to see him. While we didn't have any wow performances from Texas, right? Like as far as offensively, it was good to see him, be that consistent guy. And I think you said he was 6 of 8, right? And I think the 2 that wasn't on target was the 2 at the end of the game, right? Where it just seemed like him and Quinn were not, timing wise, were not on the same page. So he was probably perfect targeting Quinn. He was probably perfect targeting Ja'Tavion Sanders. DP, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go with Byron Murphy. And the reason is this: we had a discussion about him being a quick twitch, quick-footed guy. And the reason I'm going with that real quick, DP, is because we talked about it on the last podcast. Remember, we were talking about if he's able to beat his offensive lineman quick and then put Michael Penix in the spot. Now, Michael Penix made the play. And I was just like, if you can screenshot or an exact visual of what we were talking about, it was that exact moment, DP. That exact moment we talked about came to life literally in the game, right? Byron Murphy beating the center, beating the guard real quick, direct pass to Michael Penix, and what is he going to do? So, but I want to get Byron because I'm gaining more and more confidence in his ability to do that on the next level. So that's why I just wanted to highlight Byron Murphy real quick. I know you have some other people you want to bring up.
No, I love that call out, Keith, because he flashed everything we said that he would, and he did what we expected him to do. Him and Tavondre Sweat were the main guys trying to get pressure on Michael Penix. It's just Michael Penix was in his bag and he was evading and doing the things that he could do. But speaking of Michael Penix and what he was able to do, I think a stock up is a guy I wasn't sure. And again, I'm not 100% sure he's going to enter the draft, but I don't see why not. And that's wide receiver Ja'Lynn Polk. We know that Rome Odunze is the dude, but Ja'Lynn Polk, man, he's listed at 6'2", 204 pounds. This is a guy that runs good routes. He has good open field speed, but he's competitive at the catch point as well. And he'll go up and attack the ball and compete. And last night, Keith, in that game, man, he balled. He balled. Him and, of course, Rome. Both of those guys. And for Ja'Lynn Polk, he was 5 for 5, 100% across the board, 122 yards receiving, averaging over 24 yards per, and he had a touchdown. This guy has big playmaking ability, right? But he can also, like I said, he run routes. He can attack the ball at the catch point. He can find the voids and areas in the weak points in zone. I like his ability to sell routes and sell moves to get into the blind spot for the defensive back. He's got some new. He has more nuance to his game, I think, than the national media and fans really know about, Keith. And I think last night was another opportunity. We talked about it with Bralen Trice, at the end of the first segment. I think for Ja'Lynn Polk, this was a situation to say, guys, go back to the tape. I've been playing well all season. This isn't just a Sugar Bowl big-time performance. I've been doing this. The Michigan State game, it was an incredible catch deep down the field where Penix just laid it out there for him. And, it's kind of like I think it was like a deep over or a deep post from one side of the field to the next. And he goes up and just makes an incredible grab, spins, almost does like a 180 in the air as he's coming down with the ball. Like he does, like his body control, the athleticism, the speed, all of these things are in his favor and in his bag. And I think for him, the stock is up, Keith. I think that he really opened a lot of people's eyes that weren't really aware of him. Because if it was crazy, everybody knows Rome. Rome is a consensus top 12 pick right now, especially at this point. And people knew about Jalen McMillan. He was the wide
those are kind of the top two names. Yep.
Yeah, especially coming into the season for Washington. And then McMillan went down and was battling injuries this year. And Ja'Lynn Polk rose to the occasion, right? And I think even last night rose to the occasion yet again, where we know Rome's going, Rome is Rome, and he's going to do what he does. But Ja'Lynn Polk to go out there and just be dominant, man. That was a dominant performance by that offense in general. But to have this young man step up as wide receiver too, and it's nothing, not a bunch of quick stuff, not a bunch of quick screen. He was winning with routes and down the field, man. And NFL teams love to see that type of stuff. And he's a guy I expect if he decides to declare, that we're going to be talking about him a whole lot more on day 2 of the 2024 NFL draft in a really loaded wide receiver class.
Yeah, no, I agree. And last DP, I do want to mention AD Mitchell real quick.
Yeah.
Just because of I don't want to just bring up the highlight play, right? The touchdown catch, but
right.
What we seen, right, was the kind of detailed route running, the smooth, fluid hips, right? And then to be able to go up and get vertical, right? To go get the football. And it's those type of things, because when you watch AD Mitchell and you watch the film and stuff like that, right, you're like, okay, this is a good athlete, but it's like, when we talk about those thresholds for winning, right? Like, what are you going to do to win it? And what I'm seeing, DP, is an IQ guy, right? A high IQ guy that he's going to figure it out. And it's much like the conversation that we had with, and I'm not putting him in this bucket, right? But, we had with the CeeDee Lamb and Rome Odunze conversation, right? Can AD Mitchell start to win from an IQ perspective, right? When there's moments where, because he wasn't a huge factor in that game, right? And that Texas game, like offensively, was weird, right? They had 2 fumbles by the running backs, and Quinn Ewers was, I think, 50% throwing the football. Like it was just really out of whack. I think as a team, and when they wake up today, they're gonna be kicking themselves like, man, we left so many opportunities out there. But I wanted to highlight AD Mitchell real quick, DB, because I think just that one play, even though it was one play, it's another element to who he is, right? We know he could run the double moves and get vertical and things like that, but just another element to who he can be in the red zone.
No, 100%. The body control. And that play was so insane. He jumped early.
Yeah, he did.
He jumped
You talking about
early.
hang time. Yeah.
Hang time. Like, you know what I mean? How we would watch the old basketball highlights from back in the 90s. You see MJ just levitating and it slows down. That's what that looked like. Because he ran the fade, they're chest to chest. He leaps way too early and then pivots and turns and rotates his body while in midair to snatch this ball. You talk about like area code receivers, like guys that can go away from their base. Like that was one of the most impressive plays of that entire game. You know what I mean? He was targeted 9 times. He only had 4 catches for like 44 yards in that touchdown. And he almost had another one that would have won the game for him. You know what I mean? But it was a great PBU by Elijah Jackson. Like that play is just that's going to probably be on his draft resume. That's one of them draft resume type of plays where you like
it's
you show your coach as a scout, this is what we getting. All right.
Yeah,
like this is what
and it's when he gets drafted, right? Or whenever they talk about him on TV, and that play is going to be one of those plays, right? We're going to see that play another 100 times of AD Mitchell making 100%. That play with
100%.
Yep, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep it flowing, man. Now we on to our stock down segment. We're even throwing like questionables, right? Because we have some questions about some players based off of those performances. Like we say, man, we value these games because that's when you're going against light competition. That's where you're going against NFL competition. So coming up next, man, we're going to have the stock down conversation, the question mark segment, right? We're going to ask some questions about some of these players that played in this Texas versus Washington game.
Today's episode Locked On NFL Draft has been brought to you by PrizePicks. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Do you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players get injured. For basketball and football games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Tonight on PrizePicks, guys, I am taking Desmond Baines over 23.5 points versus the San Antonio Spurs. All right. So what do you need to do? Simple, guys. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Stock down question marks, Keith, and I got to start at the top. Quinn Ewers.
That's exactly where I wanted you to go. I didn't know if you was going to go there. I was about to cut you off and say, DP, we got to talk about the quarterback, baby.
We got to talk about Quinn Ewers, man.
Okay, and this is what I want. I would like to hear your opinion because I've watched him so much. As far as, he's in my region when it comes to scouting. I've watched a lot of Quinn Ewers. I would like to get your opinion on what you've seen from that.
So I saw the thing I would say this, Keith. One of the things I really appreciated from him was showing that athleticism. I think he had like 50 yards. They had like 3 or 4 ball carriers.
He might have been the leading rusher. Yeah, he might have been the leading rusher for Texas. Yeah.
He was up there, and he showed the wheels, and I was like, oh, okay, Quinn, you don't typically do this, and so I was very pleased with seeing that because that adds another element to his evaluation. For me, it's like, okay, he's not going to be just a pure pocket passer, a guy that you just run man to man and forget that he's in the pocket, right? Like you're not going to Mac Jones him. You're not going to Tua Tagovailoa him and be like, if you try to take off our defensive lineman to catch you. You know what I mean? He did show some good athleticism that I wasn't aware that he actually had in him, right? But it was everything else, Keith. You know what I mean? Quinn Ewers was 23 of 42 for 54.8% completion, 313 yards, 1 passing touchdown, no interceptions and everything. But he looked so uncomfortable for majority of that game. I didn't see a guy that was confident. I saw them throw different looks at him from coverage standpoint, and it felt like he was holding the ball. I felt like they were confusing him in the back end, where it was just like, that was something that I expect well of from Quinn, like just processing, reading the defense post snap, getting through his progressions, finding the open guy. I did not see that, Keith. And then there were times where and then he missed some gimmies. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. When you're throwing down the field, it's the low throwing 20 yards down the field is the lowest percentage pass in football. We all know that, right? It's your efficiency decreases the more times you attempt to go deep. We get that.
Yep.
But when you got Xavier Worthy kind of running wide open because he won his rep, when you do have Adonai Mitchell open because he won his rep, when you have guys open, like he overshot some guys. Now, I think Jaden Blue, I think is the running back who dropped a wheel route where he was wide open on the sideline. He dropped it. You know what I mean? That was a big play that could have been had that wasn't on Quinn. But I just felt like Quinn looked confused at times. And then those gotta have it plays, those deep shots where your guy is open. You get like I think he missed Xavier twice on potential with his speed on potential deep balls that could turn into touchdowns, man, like catch and run touchdowns. So I think that's where I'm at with Quinn, where it's like this was a statement game, a resume game for you, big fella. That left me with more questions than answers.
Okay, no, I appreciate that because I'm based off of that performance, and that's why I say I wanted to call it stock down, but obviously the question, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the huge question mark, right? Because you talked about him, draft prospect, will he declare or will he go back, right? And when I watched it, I agree with you, DP, that it looked uncomfortable. You know what it looked like? That sometimes when you say that the teams have those long breaks and they don't appear to be on the same page, it appeared that like the only thing that was working was Ja'Tavion Sanders across the middle, right? Everything else with trying to get AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy involved, it was timing, right? And you understand what a half a second could do, right? When you see, the quarterback just miss a wide receiver, the wide receiver just doesn't get his head around, like even in the red zone, right? When I think when they're going down to get the touchdown and he threw the ball to Xavier Worthy, I think it was like a double slant or like a double post type situation. And he threw the ball. Xavier Worthy was still trying to win his rep, and it was just off timing. So I think I gave him a second round grade, DP. And coming into the year, I gave him a third round grade. Obviously he played well. He had some big time moments, obviously against Bama this year and a couple other games. But I am comfortable with my second round grade on him because there were some other, like issues, like you said, just watching him. He didn't throw any interceptions, but also you didn't know if when you watch him, I don't know if he can single-handedly take over a game, right? And that's what you see with these quarterbacks. Like, you know what? I think put him in a good situation. Like I said, I think he would kill it with Ben Johnson, right? Like the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, because he is a timing and rhythm guy. He throws with touch and, just things like that. I think he would kill it in that type of situation, but there has to be some pieces around. So I think I'm with you right there with the whole situation with Quinn Ewers and like, man, that was – and wasn't disappointing, but it wasn't great neither.
Yeah, and I think the second round I think that's a really good spot for him, Keith. And typically, if you're a second round quarterback, you usually go to a spot that's better than going in the top 5. Now, I know the money's different, but the situations are different where you do go to a better team that may be more laden with talent and a better offensive line. They can run the ball. They got a defense. And it's like, because we've seen it with Brock Purdy, right? You put him in a good situation, he looks like a good football player. He plays like a good football player. You take him out of that situation and you put him in a less than ideal situation, you're not going to see the same Brock Purdy that threw for over 4,200 yards so far for the San Francisco 49ers. It's just not going to be the same. So I think Quinn in the second round, like it was even the last drive, right? Where they somehow got that ball back. I don't know what Washington was doing after the onside recovery. But nonetheless, they got the ball back, and it was like less than 7 seconds on the clock. He gets pressured, right? They don't see, I think it was like a simulated pressure. They got a free runner off the edge. I think it was a nickel back. He didn't see it. The O-line didn't pick it up, and he gets hit. And like as he's going to the ground, it was so risky. He threw the ball out of bounds, I think, towards like Xavier Worthy or someone, or Adonai Mitchell or somebody over there. It left 1 second on the clock, but it was this close for his knees being on the ground, which would have been a sack, which would have ran the clock. And it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, I think it was good that the person on the sideline touched the football, because if he didn't, that ball would have had an extra second to travel, right? And would have hit like
that clock would have kept running.
yeah, and that clock
It would
would
have
have
been
kept
game
running.
over.
Yep.
You
No,
know, so
I agree.
it's those
It
type of
definitely
plays,
was that.
Keith. But I mean, other than that, man, I mean, it was a great game. Shout out to both teams. Prospects did show out. You know what I mean? They showed up and showed out, man. I stayed up super late, you know, to watch it, and I'm tired because of it.
No, I'm right there with you, DP. Listen, we can't get tired yet, man. We are just getting started, man, with the draft season and this draft process. And guess what? We have a hell of a national championship game coming up with Washington and Michigan, man. The two exact opposite teams that I picked to go to the
That
national
we
championship.
picked, because we picked
we
Alabama and Texas
right?
together.
But I'm happy though, because it should be a good game. Should be an exciting game. But DP, man, that wraps up another show of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers, man. Thank y'all for tapping in with us each and every single day. At the top of the show, I told you to like, I told you to comment, I told you to subscribe. So I'm gonna tell you one more time, man. Hit that like button, go ahead and comment and subscribe to the channel, man. This is the podcast where you come to for the best NFL draft content that you can get anywhere in the draft space, right? So, man, I am Keith Sanchez, man. You can find me on X at the Talent Code, man. That is DP Damian Parson, man, my co-host. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us, because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. If you're an audio person and you're listening to this on audio, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. Talk to us, man. Let us know what you think, what you want to hear from us heading into the 2024 NFL draft season. Because guess what, guys? It is here. As soon as the new year hit, it became draft season. So go do that for us. And listen, tomorrow's show, we're breaking down same way. MVP, most valuable prospect, stock up, stock down, question marks of the Alabama versus Michigan game. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.